Hey guys, people have asked me, is the pandemic over? Is that why you stopped making these videos? Worse is, are you okay? We haven't seen a video in a while. The answer to these questions are probably no and no. The pandemic's not over, and I don't know that I'm okay. So today's video comes with some lost sleep and some anger, just at the pandemic in general and all that goes into it as a medical provider. So as you know, the southern part of the country right now is starting to look like New York City and New Jersey back in March, and things are really heating up. So imagine, I want you to think of the pandemic as if you are taking a pan and you're putting a pat of butter in the pan, and you want to get that butter to coat the entire thing. And so what you do typically is you take the pan and you roll it back and you roll the butter back and forth, right? So that it coats every inch of the pan. Well, you have to kind of think that COVID's going to do the same thing. It's going to coat the entire earth, and it's going to ebb and it's going to flow, and it's going to eventually get to where you live, and it's going to get to us more so at some point. It hasn't really gotten here yet. But if you look at the counties around us, and yesterday a new case was posted in Richland County, but if you look at the counties around us, they really started to pick up the numbers as well. So the reason that Illinois opened back up, got to phase 4, is not necessarily because the pandemic is done with us. The butter has just moved to a different side of the pan, but eventually it'll come back. As we release those restrictions, we'll see the cases go back up. So really phase 4 meant we have room at the hospital and we have a ventilator to put you on, and that's why we could open back up the state. Here are my further thoughts on the pandemic. The pandemic will be in our vocabulary for about the next 4 to 5 years. Yes, 4 to 5 years. And believe me, I am ready to be done with it. It looks like it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And honestly, I've had some days where I've Googled like what other jobs could I do for the next 4 to 5 years. However, I think there's going to be craziness in no matter which job I would find. So I think I'll just stick with this one. You're stuck with me. I feel compelled to make today's video, and hopefully we'll do more in the near future, because I want to say when this is all over that I did my best to try to protect human lives. And so that's my motivation for making this today. I want to give a word of warning to my friends in Southern Illinois and other places in the country where the restrictions have lessened. We are probably at more risk today than we were 3 months ago in our area. And the reasons for that are, number one, there's still no great treatment for severe disease. In fact, there's no great treatment for any of the levels of disease, but we're not really finding a great cure-all for this. There's still no vaccine, and that's going to take a little while. One thing to think about is that we need about 60 to 80% of the world's population to be infected before this becomes a non-issue, or they have to be vaccinated. We're at like 5% right now, so we're in the first 3 innings of this baseball game, and we're going to be here for a while. We have a lot less sheltering in place, less distancing, less mask wearing. I think mask wearing down here is probably 0.1% of the population wearing a mask. We've been congregating more and we've been socializing more, and so we will have more cases. It's going to rise. We are at more risk today than we were 3 months ago. So my word of caution is don't let your guard down, because it's only a matter of time as that pat of butter gets back to our area and starts to melt. So I am the eternal pessimist, and I want to tell you about the shift in thinking that I've had over the last few days. So for the last few months, when a patient comes in and asks me, well, what the hell are we doing all this for? Why can't we just let what will be? As they've raised their hands and said, oh, I've given up. And I was there too. I am like, okay, if we need 50% of the world's population, that's 7.5 billion people on this planet, we need what, 3.5 or more billion people to effectively get vaccinated very quickly. How are we going to manufacture those vaccines when there's a bottleneck in the supply chain and all of that? So not really hanging my hat that we're doing all this just to wait for a vaccine. And then, what if we just, let the virus kill the weak and let the strong live? Why not just accept the deaths and move on so we can save our economy? And essentially, this is the mentality in our community right now. So screw physical distancing and screw mask wearing. In fact, you're an idiot for wearing one, right? Really, who the heck cares? I, being a pessimist, was like, what was the goal of slowing the spread? Then I thought about, what about the converse? What if we slow the spread and we actually do find an effective treatment in October, and we save hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives because we slowed the spread long enough to find that treatment? Will it all be worth it then? Absolutely. But right now we can't see that. What if we prevent overloading the healthcare system by slowing down the spread, and we don't kill as many nurses, doctors, and respiratory therapists by allowing the PPE to slowly be restocked at the snail pace that it's currently at? What if there's room in the ICU when you have a stroke and you're not waiting out in the 110-degree heat in Phoenix waiting for your time to go into the hospital? What if we slow the spread long enough to not overrun our hospital system and allow my counterparts that are working in the hospitals to do their job and to do it safely? What if we do help slow some of that spread? Physical distancing seems to help. Masks appear to do something. I know a lot of people want to fight about the data and such, but I think more and more is coming out that there is at least some benefit. What if we stay out of communal indoor spaces, as that seems to help slow the spread as well? What if we do all this and we do save lives? Now, if some of you will humor me, we can follow Pascal's wager. And forgive me if I have this a little bit wrong from those that studied it more intensely than I have. Pascal said, if he believed in God and he is right, there's great reward. If he believed in God and he was wrong, maybe he would have missed out on some of the fun in life by doing things that maybe weren't good in the eyes of God. What if he didn't believe in God and he was right? Well, then he looks really good. He got to live his life without any sort of feeling like he had to please God. And what if he lived his life thinking that there wasn't a God and he was wrong? Well, that was really gonna suck. So if we believe that these things we can continue to do for prevention, such as mask wearing and social distancing and staying out of indoor spaces, even when the pandemic doesn't feel real down here and it saves lives, that's amazing. And people will be living who would have died without slowing the spread. And if we do all this and it doesn't save one life, well, I looked funny wearing a mask and I didn't go inside of a store and maybe I visited with my friends outside 6 feet apart. If I don't do these preventative things, if I'm willfully doing things to disregard what the recommendation is from the epidemiologists, and the number of cases are wrong or unchanged, well, then I didn't inconvenience my life in any way. But here's the problem. What if I willfully don't do those things and it actually would have slowed the spread and I was wrong and more lives are lost because of it? Then that guilt is on my shoulders. The guilt of many is on my shoulders. And we as human beings should care about one another, not just about myself. Not just about me and the things that I want to do. And that is why, regardless of what rulings there are of governor's orders, I will wear a mask. I will distance myself. I will refrain from unnecessary indoor spaces. I will wash my hands. I'll visit with friends and family outside, because I would rather be wrong doing those things than not doing those things and being wrong and having the lives of other human beings on my shoulders. So we do need to continue this discussion. We need to have a middle of the road discussion about schools and the economy, but that's enough for today. Thank you guys for those that held out through this entire video, and I promise I'll try to make them shorter and maybe a little bit more frequent with some more thoughts as we get into what the heck does the school year look like. Take care.